The #1 pick conversation has been largely dominated by one name for a while, but Rutgers' Dylan Harper has certainly added himself to the mix in a substantial way. With back-to-back 36 and 37-point nights against the likes of Notre Dame and Alabama, a game-winning shot against Seton Hall, and consistent output as one of, if not the best playmaking prospect in the class, he's made a serious case for himself. Now there's still a ton of season left and he's far from a perfect player, but there's not a single freshman that I've been more impressed by, so let's dive into what he brings to the table and what's still out there for him to show and prove the rest of the way. Now Dylan is off to an incredible start offensively, currently top 3 in the country in scoring, and a big part of that is how nearly unstoppable he's been as a driver and finisher. It was already a big part of his game before getting to Rutgers, but the level of dominance he's had against top tier athletes in various defenses has been special and a notch above even the highest expectations of him coming in. He's been relentless attacking downhill with a great combination of size, first step, and change of direction. He's been comfortable using either hand. He's operated well against pressure and attacked off closeouts and used jabs, and he's also been creative playing off of 2 feet, and this is where a lot of the Jalen Brunson comparisons have come from. His use of these pivots, his inside hand finishes, and unorthodox movements has been super effective, and obviously being 6'6" helps Harper do some things that even JB can't as easily, though he's definitely like the North Star of all things 2-foot craft at the bucket in the game right now. And that brings up Harper's finishing. Any concern I had about him here has been completely thrown out the window so far. He's been good enough athletically, the touch with either hand has been impressive, the control is there, and when you look at the numbers and see he's shooting over 70% at the bucket and maintaining that effectiveness in the half court on a team that has limited spacing, that's elite activity. Now he's been so ridiculously good that it would be hard to imagine he keeps us up the entire year, so I am kind of curious to see where things go, but he's been special so far, and of course guys have had no choice but to foul him in a lot of situations, and he's taken over 7 free throws a game. The free throw rate is in the mid-40s, and that's just another elite mark for him. Now he's also been even tougher to stop in the pick and roll, so I wanted to put some focus on that specifically. His pace has been excellent and his size and craft has had him exploiting whatever a defense has thrown at him. Teams have hedged and blitzed more often to try to make him change direction, but it really hasn't mattered, and he's done an excellent job of splitting and come up with a lot of highlights there. It's been a nightmare for bigs to handle one-on-one and drop, as he's often killed them with push crosses and gotten them to move laterally. And again, he's just done an excellent job of converting in traffic after he's created those opportunities. Now just to further add some context to how good he's been, since 2008, only 5 freshmen have posted an offensive box plus minus of 9 or better, and those names are Michael Beasley, Kevin Love, Anthony Davis, Trae Young, and Zion Williamson, and at the moment, Dylan Harper would be the 6th. Now you got to take the early season numbers just at face value, but that's some rarefied air to be in with some of the best and most memorable one and dones we've ever seen. And if you want to use overall BPM, Harper would be just the 26th freshman to ever post a BPM of 10 or higher, and all of those guys were drafted in the top 7 of their respective drafts except for Sam Decker and Robbie Hummel. On top of being one of the best scoring threats in the country, Harper's also been a proficient passer in multiple spots on the floor, and that's the other side of his offensive game that makes him such an appealing prospect. He's made plays as a downhill driver, able to draw 2 or 3 consistently. He's made reads on the interior with dump offs, and he's capable of making kickouts on the perimeter, and of course those live dribble skips that everyone loves to see, and all of that has been there in the pick and roll as well. He's got impressive pace and a solid feel for where his teammates are at. There's been moments of manipulation and use of pass fakes, and he's done a good job of creating angles and being patient enough for them to open up and not getting caught in a bad spot. He's averaging about 4.5 assists on the year and has an assist rate right near 30, which are both good marks, and that obviously doesn't include the looks that he's created that haven't fallen.
Trying to get the championship levels here at the Scatter. Rutgers will play Princeton coming up in December. Found in the game.
The grad transfer out of Lehigh.
Good pass.
Williams wide open.
Sweet for this team from a scheduling standpoint. A lot of good tests, so we'll see what they're made of. It's only going to bode well for them as you get.
Now, what's maybe the most underrated part of his game is just how well he's taking care of the ball considering his usage. He's had pretty good ball security in traffic, the handle has looked improved, and he's avoided being erratic or out of control. And the turnover percentage is at just about 12, which for quick reference, Cade was at 22, RJ Barrett and Markelle Fultz were about at 16, and several others were in that similar range as well. He can definitely get more accurate as a passer, and there is still some cleaning up to do as a decision maker, which is expected for any creator his age. But there's been times where he'll drift into forcing or being a beat late on moving the ball, and it'll result in a turnover from a dig or an errant pass, and that's where the bulk of his mistakes have come when he has made them. But you match great size and physicality with his ability to create advantages, draw help, and set his teammates up as a passer. That's something that'll intrigue teams at the top of any draft. Now, the most questionable part of Harper's game right now is his pull-up jumper and, to a lesser but related extent, his three-point shot. Starting with the pull-up, he's currently shooting just 27% on shots off the dribble, including 23% on mid-ranges. I think the lower release point and his tendency to lean backwards instead of elevate has contributed to those numbers from 2. He'll also have some moments where he'll force or take an off-balance look, but he's at least been trending in the right direction as of late. And I think his footwork, his confidence, and his pickups are too good for him to continue to struggle as much as he has so far. But thinking long term, whether college teams are able to execute it or it doesn't happen into the league, teams are going to go under, play a little deeper in drop, and live with defending from behind if he's not as effective off the bounce to make them pay. So out of everything that he's shown in his game, this is the area I'm most curious to see where he ends up down the stretch. Again, I think process and the details like the footwork are more important in projection, but if he can hit at a more respectable clip, he's going to have some massive games, and I would expect the number 1 pick convos to be split more than ever, if not in his favor.
Sometimes you have to.
Harper pulls early, knockdowns for a while here. Down to 5 on the clock for Harper. He hoists the 3.
The nation averaging 23 points per game. And you see how Penn State's going to guard
Those 2 points he had at halftime. He steps into a 3.
Now, off the catch from 3, he's actually been very good, though on a limited number of looks. He's 10 for 22, which is 45%, and those chances that he's had to scoot around the perimeter or operate against the zone, he's taken advantage of, and it looks great. The shot prep could probably be cleaned up a little, but that's 100% nitpicking. Overall in the year, he's 36% from deep. He's at 46% on nearly 7 attempts in the last 4 games, so again, headed in the right direction, but the pull-up, the opening stretch, and a handful of rough misses at least give some pause to the level of shooter he is. So we'll see where things ultimately end up. And finishing it up on the defensive end, I think there are some question marks of who he is here. He's been solid so far. He's got good size. He can match up with a couple positions. He takes pride whenever challenged and moves well enough in one-on-one situations. And I also think the offensive responsibility he has should be accounted for. But there's also been a number of instances where the effort could be better. He's been caught on screens at times, been a bit laxed off the ball, and in putting this video together, a lot of these moments actually stood out more than they did on the first or sometimes second watch for whatever reason. When you also add in his low activity as a defensive playmaker, or the stocks category, which some value way more than I do based on history, there's at least reason to be interested in who he is here. Now, he certainly hasn't been negative to this point to me, but over the next 20 games or so, I want to get a bit even better feel of who he is or who he can be on this end.
Down to 5 on the shot clock. Way out wide. Parrish got to go here. Whips it cross court. Harper's there to pick it off.
Sensational here against Rutgers. Sets the screen for his lead guard. Taylor trying to turn the corner. And
I can tell they were working on the defense because they're getting after it here in the first half. First game at home in 3 weeks. Baldwin.
Scarlet Knights shooting 53% from the field, and when they've taken it from deep, been pretty good looks. 4 of 6 from long range. Straightaway opportunity.
Michael trying to get the home crowd to it. Hicks hesitates.
Now, getting into these upcoming matchups, Rutgers has quite the gauntlet in the Big Ten coming up. You've got teams like Purdue, Michigan, and Oregon who have a structure and scheme that'll be difficult to handle, especially for Harper specifically. But in terms of prospects, Illinois is obviously at the top of that list. Him versus Yakuchonis is going to be one of those top tier prospect matchups we've been missing these last couple years. You've also got Jace Richardson in Michigan State. I think Kobe Johnson is the perfect individual defensive test for Harper against UCLA, and then they play Maryland and Derek Queen, which should be fun too, though they're obviously very different positions. So it's a pretty tough schedule, but it's also the type of stage and opportunity that could have him really assert himself as potentially the top prospect in the class. Right now, I'd confidently say Dylan Harper has established himself as a top 2 option in this draft with the potential to actually be the number 1 pick. Now, I'd leave room for things to play out down the stretch because it is still super early, and he's going to have a lot of eyes on if he can continue to produce at an all-time rate as a driver, where his perimeter game goes, and just how he handles being the lead on every scouting report in a tough conference. But a 6'6" guard who creates advantages, has great craft, makes plays, and can be an off-ball complement should absolutely be taken seriously at the top of this class. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new to the channel, and leave a comment down below of what you think of Dylan Harper's game so far and who your number 1 would be right now. Is it Harper? Is it Flag? Is somebody else in that mix for you? Let me know in the comments. As always, I'm Keandre. This is HoopIntellect. Until next time, I'm out.